Hello, my name is Tim Dwarnacek,
And I'm his twin brother Tom, and we're here to explain the purpose of bringing Israel to America. Tim and I are the co-founders of this exciting website, and we want to do a little introduction and explain how we got here sitting in front of you talking about Israel and America. So what happened was about 10 years ago, actually it was 2004, I was guided to move to Colorado from Northwest Indiana. At the time, I was a practicing psychotherapist. Tim had a booming drug addiction business, and we just shut it all down. Okay, we were guided to do this, and Tim went off and did some other things, and I moved to Colorado, thinking I was going to grow old in the mountains and be teaching, doing a little therapy. Little did I know, 2 weeks into my stay there, I met a rabbi, Rabbi Joe Baxt, who had spent 20 plus years living in Israel, studying with the sages, studying Kabbalah, Torah. And it was kind of a fluke how I met him, but I don't want to spend a lot of time with that. That's where BITA's first birth happened, is becoming more aware and conscious of Torah and Kabbalah and Judaism. What were we raised? Catholic. We're Christians. And I think for both of us, our Catholicism in that was on the wane. Yeah, we'd go to Mass maybe once in a while, but it seemed to kind of lose its, what would you say? Passion, spark. We were looking for a deeper understanding about knowing our Creator and knowing about being good men and women and about the fall of Adam and that. And we just weren't getting fed there through our Catholic faith. So we went off the path, I guess, so to speak, by me moving there and then bringing back what I was learning from Rabbi Joel. So part of it was this trip to Colorado. It was also something Tim and I started to witness in our therapy practice. We started to see a deterioration in the American males, in our family structure, and in the way the kids were being raised. And we were kind of shocked and appalled by this, if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, the kids are running the show in many houses today.
Yep. So I meet this rabbi, we're witnessing this stuff starting probably in the mid-90s in America. And then the other thing we notice is the loss of godliness in this country. God has been supplanted by many, many things to the point where they're not even wanting us to use the word God in our schools and that. So we were not seeing where God was at the center of our life like it was when we were growing up. This in turn inspired us to want to visit Israel. So we did 2 trips to Israel, one in 2010 and one in 2011. And both of us had a spiritual awakening during our 2 trips there. We couldn't wait to get back there, to the point where we were literally thinking of moving to Israel, living on a kibbutz, and just being with the Jewish people.
Yeah, it's interesting how from 2004 until 2011, where 7 years later we were literally planning our retirement in a whole different culture and country, halfway across the world.
Yeah. But instead, through a prayer meditation, we were guided to bring Israel to America. And what does that mean? What we saw in Israel, especially in the Orthodox communities, we wanted to bring back the blueprint to what we saw in that country, where godliness was at the center of everybody's life, where the men were acting like men, the children were being properly raised with good limits and boundaries, and not giving them that sense of entitlement, where women were honored, where women dressed modestly, to honor the feminine in that country. So you're stuck with us, folks. We decided to bring Israel to you through this website to pass on the blueprint in our own ways of how to do that. Now Tim's going to talk a little bit about what is our true mission statement and our true purpose of doing this. What was that spiritual awakening really about?
Yeah, because it was neat that Tom and I, being identical twins, we kind of had this evolution together, but in different ways. So the true purpose and the mission of BITA is to resurrect America's consciousness level. That's one part of it. Let's become more aware. you know, believe it or not, we're all connected to each other. And people seem to have lost that awareness that, you know, we need to be doing things for other people, our neighbors, but we are all connected. What I do affects many other people and vice versa. And the second part is we're trying to bring back the spiritual roots of America. I was raised going to church every single Sunday. That was part of the program. You did the seven sacraments. And you know, as a child going through a lot of that, I thought it was just a pain in the butt. I had to do that. But that was bringing some spirituality into the family, into the home, into myself. So we're trying to get people to be more conscious that they should have spiritual roots of some kind, hopefully with their Creator.
And what people seem to have forgotten was that our spiritual roots came from the first monotheistic religion, which was Judaism. Jesus was a Jew. So by hoping to reconnect America to her spiritual roots, we can resurrect this country to be better than it ever was. I think we've kind of lost that. You know, the more time goes on, we've forgotten what is this true purpose in this country. It's turned out to be every man and woman for themselves, the isolation, the alienation. You know, Tim and I are heartbroken when I see these homeless people, people that are struggling, and then you've got the extremely wealthy people, and it's like, well, you know, capitalism is such a soulless way of being, and I think this country is running its course with this, so we want to be here when the things start to fall, like we believe they're going to fall in this country, to have something to latch on to besides that bank account.
Yeah, you know, and we're talking about the spiritual roots. When we were younger, growing up, there was always this statue of Jesus on a cross at this really nice park in Highland, Indiana. And it was maybe about 10 years ago, a group of atheists got together and they forced the county and the township to take down that cross. Now, overall, it wasn't such a big deal, but it's more of a this, and eventually there is no spirituality anymore.
Yeah, one of our teachers, David Icke, calls it the stair-stepping process. They don't go from A to Z, they go A, B, C, D, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you know, we're living in a godless country. Tim and I aren't giving up. You know, we're 62 years old, and we figured we're going to spend the rest of our life at least planting seeds to help people become more aware of this. Now, how are we going to do that? BITA has many programs, but we're going to talk about some of our plan of what we're going to do. Number one is to increase people's relationship with their Creator, have God more in their lives, adore God as our Creator, and lower the idolatry. Now, what do we mean by idolatry? In Judaism, they call it avodah zara. It's alien worship. Excuse me. And what we see in this country is worshiping technology. You know, when people say good luck, or I wish you luck on that, it has nothing to do with luck. That's a form of idolatry. In Judaism, we're not allowed to use the word luck because we know God's behind everything. So reconnecting people to the inner workings of the Kabbalah and the Creator and how God is creating creation, and to give up all this idolatry that we're seeing where people are spending all their time and attention with it.
Yeah, and we do see that technology idolatry more and more in this country. One of the things that was brought to my attention, a lot of people use the word coincidence. It's a coincident. You know, I have replaced the co with God. It's a God incident. It makes me more aware on a very small level who's really behind the screen, like in The Wizard of Oz. It's all about our Creator. So in our groups, what we like to have our participants work on is starting to emulate the divine attributes of their Creator. We give them a list of attributes, and you know, it's charity, it's kindness, it's visiting the sick, it's generosity, it's loving. And what we want you to do is think about things like when somebody does a kind deed for you with no strings attached, how does that make you feel as a person? And secondly, when you do something kind or generous for somebody else, how does that make you feel? We want people to do that more and more to get that feeling inside again.
Yeah, it's kind of like modeling ourselves after our Creator. You know, in Genesis 1:27, they say we're made in the image and likeness of God. It has nothing to do with physical likenesses. That has to do with we have the divine attributes within us. So when we show compassion, when we show mercy, as God does, we need to do. And the other thing we're going to try to bridge here with this program is the interconnection versus the separation that we see now in our reality, in our country. Everything we do affects everything else, as Tim said a minute ago. Kabbalah and Judaism is about fractals and fractal reality. Everything is interconnected to everything else, like the butterfly effect. And there was a really cool movie about 10 years ago showing that. But what one person is doing over here will affect everybody else. For instance, if I'm kind of mean to a guy in traffic and he's having a bad day anyway, okay, so he gets home and he's in a grumpy mood, and then his wife says something to her, and he acts out toward her and yells at her. Now his young 15-year-old son sees this, and he stands up for his mom, and dad socks him in the head and says, "Get away from me." Now this kid is really hurt and he's angry, and he decides to hang out with his friends today that do drugs, and they go ahead and do drugs. Now they're driving in a car, now there's a death. I started that, and if you can start to understand the interconnectedness of everything in this reality, it will paralyze you. You know, even your speech, how speech affects everything, you know, people's reputations in that. So what BITA is drawn to doing is helping people understand the interconnectedness to stop the separation and alienation we're seeing in our country.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I did when I was in horseshoeing school after we closed our business, I did a timeline of my life from early on in my late teenage years until I was at the horseshoeing school in 2004. And all the different fractals that happened, all the different paths that I took, I couldn't have planned that, but that's exactly the way it was supposed to work out. And I see Tom smiling about that.
Yeah, I call it the chessboard of life. And in the Kabbalah seminar, I actually put together a chessboard of life with 34 main events in my life since 1969 that got me sitting here today in front of you. And we have the illusion that we're moving on the chessboard, but folks, we're really being moved. Who's moving us? What's moving us? So what we're trying to do with BITA is to help you gain the bigger picture of what's going on in reality. And that's what the Kabbalah is partly about. It talks about the source codes and how God is doing what God does through creation. If you're only zoomed in on the little picture right in front of you, you're going to miss out on a lot of different things. When you zoom out like Tim did with his horseshoeing school incident, and when you can step back and zoom out and you see how the interconnectedness is happening, you know, you talk about a spiritual awakening, folks, you're going to get one there.
Yeah, just kind of like what happened with us with BITA, which began in 2004. It began probably a little sooner than that, but in 2004. Here we are, 2014, and we're in front of you today. So we have several different programs that we have set up within the BITA program itself. And one that we feel real important about is helping men to define a purpose and a mission in their lives. What does their soul really want them to do? You want to be a good man for yourself, for your wife, for your family, for society. What we do in our men's group is we challenge the men to be better. We want them to be better because we know that better men will make a better country.
A better society, a better family. Every man has to know his mission and purpose, and that's what guides him and directs him. We're given a soul, and our soul has a purpose here. It knows what it wants to do. The blessed person is the one that is in tune with that can recognize that and then follow his soul's purpose and mission. That's a happy man and woman. You know, women have the same thing. And besides helping men to become better men, which we've started to work with in our male mentoring groups, we're also seeing that we need to challenge our children more, to have more expectations on them, to discipline them more, to set limits and boundaries on these kids. These kids that are walking around with this entitlement mentality, that is not an accident. We, the parents, have done that to our children. You know, disciplining your child, setting limits, telling them they have to go to bed at a certain time. Yeah, they get frustrated, but then it allows them to deal with their frustration in life, because life is very frustrating. It doesn't go smoothly all the time. So part of what we're trying to do is help the men to become better men, to wake up the women to find these types of men, because there's a lot of man boys out there, as we like to call them, to raise our children to carry on what we think is important in this society.
We believe that if enough people do this, we can switch it back to the country that we noticed in the 50s and the 60s and probably before that.
Yeah.
Also, what we do is we do a couple seminar. It's a full-day seminar, and the idea of that is to enrich and enhance marriages and relationships so that the couple is now acting as one. What we notice today in today's world, one person in a relationship is doing their own thing, the other is doing the other thing, and the kids are slipping in between.
Yeah, so, and this seminar is not just for married people. It can be for engaged people, people thinking about partnering up. It can be father, daughter, mother, son, to understand relationships. And one of the things that we talk a lot about in relationships is the polarity, the masculine and feminine, but that's for a later time in another video that you can watch. Also, we are predominantly a Christian society, and Tim and I are Christians. You know, we're not converting to Judaism. We are not attempting to convert anybody to Judaism. We just want to take some of the teachings and the values and the things that we saw in Israel and bring that blueprint back here. So as Christians, our BITA website will delve into Jesus' true heritage as a Jew and as a Kabbalist. Why would we want to do that? First, to understand he was raised in that tradition, and by understanding what he was raised in, it can deepen and mature our faith. Since we've been studying with Rabbi Joel in 2004, both of our level of faith and our commitment to God as our Creator has deepened tenfold, and we're hoping, you know, it's not, we got to get out of the childlike mentality, God sitting up there on a throne, or some of this real immature faith that I see going on in this country, or the hatred for other faiths and that. You know, we're all children of God. We may be doing it through a different religion per se, but it's the same Creator that we're all here to adore and emulate.
And on a different note, when Jesus went out into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, I wonder if he was doing some meditating and some mindfulness out in the desert or in the wilderness. We believe that getting into a practice of meditation or mindfulness on a regular basis in our racing, busy society is a healthy behavior to do on a regular basis, because, hey guys, if you're like me, everything is so fast-paced today. They're coming at us through the computer, through our cell phones. They're coming at us all over. Get in the habit of practicing meditation.
And what they're finding with meditation, and this is even in the mental health fields, it increases your health, your mental health and your physical health. In BITA, we do teach several different types of meditations. One is involving your pineal gland. It's called the P2P meditation. And I've taught many people how to do this, and it is trippy, guys. But what meditation does is it kind of resets us. It reconnects us to everything. When you're, even sleep-wise in this country, sleep is becoming a problem for a lot of people. If you look at the statistics, a lot of people, I want to say at least 50% are getting no more than 6 hours of sleep. That's a time when we reset ourselves. So in your busy day, if you know a form of meditation, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where you go and you can use a chant, you can use a candle, something that's simple, where you just sit and you focus on something, slow it all down, get reconnected to yourself, and then you're good to go for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's almost like that's my time in the morning. I'm selfish about that, and it's okay to be selfish about my meditation. Tom and I would not start our day without doing our meditation every single day.
Yeah, and we've incorporated it's called a prayer meditation. So we have certain intentions every day, but it's tied into this form of meditation. And occasionally, if I have to get up early in the morning and I can't do the meditation right away, and I can't get it to do it till maybe 11 or 12 in that day, I feel different that day. It's like it sets me for the day, my purpose, what am I doing here, what do I want to focus on. And our main mission, Tim and I were this is God driven, what we're doing with BITA. We did not wake up one day and decide to do this. Like Tim said, we got slowly moved into this through our experiences as therapists and counselors, to seeing a country that has fallen like the Roman Empire did, as everybody knows. We want to resurrect this country to become better than it ever was.
So we want to challenge you to be better. So if any of the themes that we've talked about, if you have any interest in any of those, on our website we have many downloadable videos that you can purchase for a small price. If you do live near Northwest Indiana, we do these programs live in our office. If not, you can do this on your own, and we ask you to consider at least looking at one to see if it piques your interest.
Yeah, and learn, just do one, and we've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. We've worked really hard to try to inspire you to want to get God back in the center of your life, like what we saw in Israel. So guys, if we can create that blueprint there in the Orthodox communities in America, is America going to look different?
Welcome to BITA. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.